Hello everybody and welcome. Thank you for being here. This is my first video. Well, not really my first, but my first on this channel. This is a video I've actually been meaning to do for a while, and for those of you who may have been waiting on it, who saw my comments over at Jay's channel review it, I want to apologize to you. I meant to get this out a lot sooner than I am. What I'm going to cover in this video is going to be how to properly flash your video BIOS on AMD RX series cards, excluding Vega. This is going to cover 470s, 480s, 570s, and 580s. A link to all the files that you'll need is going to be in the video description, so you can find that down there. I really hope this video helps out some of you, and I hope that you enjoy it. If you do, please like it, subscribe, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment, send me a message, reach out to me somehow. Back in 2015, whenever I first started mining, there weren't near as many outlets, videos, or guides to figure out how to do all of this. And I had been building computers for almost 10 years then, and it was still a major headache to try to get all this figured out. Okay, so I've gone ahead and closed my miner. If you currently have any overclocking software running, like Sapphire Tricks or MSI Afterburner or anything else, you're going to want to close that out. Also, set it to not start at Windows boot. So make sure you uncheck those settings. The first thing you're going to want to download and install, if you don't already have these, are the AMD beta blockchain drivers. And right out of the gate, these things will give your cards, if you're mining Ethereum for example, each card just from this will probably get about 1 to 3 more mega hashes per second just from this. You're going to want to download the one that goes with your system. I have Windows 10 64-bit, so I would download this. If you are running these already, of course skip this step, but if you're not and you're running a different version of Crimson, if it's different than this, 17.30.1029, then you're going to need to use this tool, and that is Display Driver Uninstaller. Okay, I've got my Crimson drivers. I'm going to drag them to the desktop. I'm going to do the same thing with Display Driver Uninstaller. And if you're not sure which drivers you're currently running, you can check by looking around here. I have mine disabled, but you'd look for the AMD settings icon, double click on that, and you'd go to the software tab, and it will tell you what version of your drivers that you're running. So I'm going to extract this. I'm going to right click this and run it as administrator. This warning, you're going to get this anytime that you're not booted into Windows Safe Mode. This is completely up to you. Now, I don't find it a necessity to reboot into safe mode prior to using this. I haven't had any issues with it, and I've used this software for years. So that's completely up to you. I just choose to ignore it. Obviously, make sure you have AMD selected, and then you're going to want to click Clean and Restart. And you'll see down here all of the files and traces of them for the previous AMD drivers that you just had being removed and cleaned. After your PC reboots and you have it started back up, that's when you're going to want to install these drivers. I already have them installed, but you would want to double click them and click install. And then whenever you get the interface from the Crimson installer, it'll ask you whether or not you want to do an express or a custom installation. Make sure you choose custom, because an express installation is going to include files that aren't necessary and just honestly waste space. The only two ones that you need to have checked are AMD display drivers and AMD settings. After they install, it's going to prompt you to reboot your PC, so go ahead and do that. Okay, the next thing you're going to want to do is download and install GPU-Z. You can choose either one of these versions, doesn't matter. I already have it installed. And depending on how many cards you have on your rig, it can take a bit longer to start. I have about 8 cards on this. Now that it's up, you want to select your first card. I'm going to be ignoring the NVIDIA cards that are on here. for every single card that you have, you're going to want to do this, and that is save your original video BIOS. So you click on it, click Save to File, and I already have a folder called Original vBIOSes, and this is where I save mine too. By default, all RX 400 and 500 series cards will try to save as Ellesmere. That's just the name of the GPU chipset. So you're going to want to save each card, especially if they're different, you want to save them with a unique name that you're going to remember that you can associate with that card. For example, this is a Sapphire Special Edition, and the way I remember that is I would just put Sapphire Special and just abbreviate it. I actually have two different XFX cards. They're both 580s and they're both 8 gigs. One way for me that was easy to remember was the difference in their core clocks. I have one that's actually at 1405 originally, and I had another one that's actually not in this folder, but its core clock is 1366. Make sure you type .rom and save it. And you're going to want to do that for every RX series card that you have on this machine. Always back these up. Once you have a full folder of your original video BIOSes, the next thing you can do is take a look at this. This is the next important thing, and that is your memory type on your cards. Luckily, all of my cards have Hynix memory, so it'll say the memory brand in parentheses. If you go to the Advanced tab and click AMD BIOS, if you scroll down, you'll see under memory support there's actually two different brands of memory on board, and this is common with these cards, with RX series cards. I actually have Samsung and Hynix memory. Even though this only shows Hynix, I actually have both. Now that you have the original video BIOSes backed up and saved, you can move on to downloading the tools for flashing. The first one is going to be ATI WinFlash. You're going to want to download this, and you're also going to want to get this, and this is ATI Pixel Clock Patcher. This is probably the most overlooked and also an extremely necessary tool for flashing your cards. What this does is, whenever you flash a card, Windows will no longer recognize the AMD driver natively. This patches the driver and forces Windows to recognize it, so this is something you definitely need to have. I have them both downloaded already, and with ATI WinFlash, there's actually two ways you can go about using it. This is using the GUI. I personally don't recommend doing that. The best way to do this and to use it is by using this, and this is the command line. Open up a command prompt, run it as administrator, and you'd want to navigate to this directory. Select all, copy, type in CD space, then the location of the directory, and you'll just hit enter. And now you can see the command prompt has navigated to this directory. To use this ATI flash, what you'll do is you would type in ATI flash.exe, and for an example you can type in -I, and this will print out a list of all of your AMD GPUs that you have on board. Keep that in mind that it starts with a 0 rather than a 1. And I can see right here that in slot 0 I have a Sapphire Special Edition card. Here's my second one of it here. These obviously are the two different XFX cards. The 1405 one that I mentioned earlier, and this is that 1366 clocked one. And these right here are my two MSI Gaming X 570s, and I can tell that right here under the flash header because I know that I have 4 580s, and I'm seeing this 4 times, and I have 2 570s, and I'm seeing this twice. So that's one way you can check and kind of keep up with it. And I'll show you how to flash it in just a moment. We've got our flash tools ready. but we need to find some ROMs, if possible, that are already pre-made rather than us having to edit our own. Now, if you choose to, you can always edit your own ROM files and your vBIOSes. That's up to you. This website, I cannot recommend going here enough. That's anorak.tech. And in the download section, there's tons of video BIOSes already made. So there's a lot of good stuff in here. For example, right here, this Sapphire RX 570 Nitro Plus, it's an 8GB and it's Hynix. So it's noting that the exact card type and its model, how many gigs it has, what brand of RAM, and what the mem shift is. This one has its timings at 1500 for the upper settings. This one right here is the same, but rather than 1500 on the timings, it's 1750. Now, most commonly I'll see and use 1500 timings for 570s and 470s, but for 580s as well as 480s I would use 1750 timing. Alternatively, there's also power save versions of the cards. It's up to you if you'd like to use them. Personally, I just do my power saving with MSI Afterburner. I just downclock my voltage, my power, and my core clock. So I do that on all my cards individually and get it to where it's nice and stable but using quite a bit less wattage. This is another thing right here, as you saw in GPU-Z, where there were two types of memory. This notes that as well. It's noting that it's got Samsung and Micron memory on board. Definitely check this website out and look through all of these directories and see if they have your cards. Just make sure the specific ROMs that you pick up and download from here match your card, both in terms of their size and gigabytes, whether they're 4 or 8 gig cards, and they match the memory type. And if you don't find something in these directories, take a look at the forums. There's actually a lot of posts where people will put up their own ones, and you can find all of these for free without having to do actually any work. It'll save you a bit of a headache if you don't feel like editing memstraps yourself. That's what I'm going to be showing you next. Prior to that, I just want to make one more note of something. Now, some cards do and some cards do not. More often you'd see these on 580 series cards, but not always all of them. This is a physical switch on your video card, meaning it has a double BIOS. When it's sent to you, whenever you have the card, say you just opened it or whatever, this switch right here will be ticked at number 2, which is the original BIOS that the card is shipped to you with, and it's locked to this one. This video BIOS cannot be edited or changed, which is a good thing. You can kind of think of this as a fail-safe. So whenever you're going to flash it, you're going to need to tick this switch from 2 over to 1. If it's not numbered, you want to switch it to the direction that's furthest away from the output video ports on the back of the card. Prior to flashing, it needs to be on 1. And for the fail-safe part, say something happens that you reboot and you have no display showing. Well, all you have to do is tick this switch right back to 2, reboot your PC, and you'll have normal working video. And once you're back in Windows and you have it booted up, you can tick this back over to 1 and flash it again. So this can be done within Windows while the system is live. This is definitely something you need to look at and see if your cards have. If they do not have it, that's fine. It's not something that's necessary, but you do want to be a bit more careful with some of the editing you may do with cards that do not have this failsafe. So moving into editing the video BIOSes yourself, if you were not able to find a suitable one on that website or another way, such as just Googling it, remember guys, Google is your friend. You can find a ton of stuff that way. If you weren't able to find one, there's quite a few different Polaris BIOS editors. My personal favorite is this one, SRB Polaris. By default, Windows will flag this as a virus and purge it, so you may want to turn off your virus protection temporarily. I can assure you this is 100% not a virus. It's just the fact of what it is able to edit that Windows does that. I'd right click on it, run it as administrator. And right here, I'd click on Open BIOS. And I'd look for my original vBIOS folder and find whichever ones that I couldn't find already modded ROMs for. So let's say, for example, that I couldn't find one for my Sapphire Special Edition one. So I'll go ahead and open that. I'd go over to Mem Timings, and this right here you'll see where, once again, from GPU-Z we saw how it had Samsung and Hynix memory. Right here, these are the timings themselves. These are the memory straps, or mem straps for short, and these are just hex values that represent them. You can see that all of these are different. Now, the reason that I like this BIOS editor better than the other ones is because of being able to use this. Now, this is a 580. What I'd want to do is copy my 1750 memory timings. I can just click this, and if you'll watch, these two will become this same value at 1750. Right there. Automatically did it for me, just by clicking that. And there are other sections that you can mess with if you want to. Personally, I don't. I've never really touched them. That's something, once again, you can do at your own risk. This is a very simplistic example of modding the BIOS yourself. Just purely changing the memory straps. 1750 isn't always the best for your 480 or 580. You know, maybe you have a weaker one and a different strap would be better or something. So you can try all of these out, and what you would do next is you click Save BIOS, and it'll give you a timer of 10 seconds to wait. He did do good work, so if you want to donate to him, feel free. And once the timer is out, you just click OK. Obviously, I don't want to save this in the same folder as my original vBIOS. I already have a folder where my modded vBIOSes are. This is what I saved it as, Sapphire Spec Mod .rom. Once again, you want to save it as whatever name mod .rom, and it'll say BIOS saved. And you can do this with all of your cards. You could subsequently open the next one and move on to that one and do timings. Once you have all of your cards edited, or you have found ROMs that are for your cards, and you have them in a specific folder ready to go, the next step is going to be flashing them. Copy all of your modded vBIOSes. So copy all of these ROMs that you've modded or downloaded, and go ahead and move them into your ATI Flash folder. Paste them in here. So I've got those two in there. Open Command Prompt. Run as admin. Copy this directory again. CD. Paste the directory. You'll hit enter. ATI Flash .exe -I again is the one that gives you your output for your devices. I just hit the up arrow key, type that again, and let's say I want to go ahead and flash this Sapphire Special Edition with my modded ROM. I would type ATI Flash.exe -F, which means force the flash, and then -P. And you can kind of think of P as part or PCIe lane, if you will, and it's synonymous with the adapter number. Since I have one of my Sapphire Special Editions at 0 and one also at 4, I could use either 0 or I could use 4. And then I'd put a space after the number, and I'd type in the name of the ROM. To make it simple, I'm just going to copy the name of it and paste it, and then I would hit enter. And I'm not actually going to hit enter because my cards are already flashed, but this is what you would do for each of your cards. This is it right here. That's all you need. And after hitting enter, you'll see it may take a moment for your PC to catch up, but eventually you'll have an output right here that'll say X number of bits or bytes successfully flashed to whatever card. And you want to go ahead and take care of all of your cards. Once you have every single one of them flashed and you've got that same successful output, you can close this out and close out this folder, and you'll open this where your pixel clock patcher is. And you're going to want to right click this, run it as administrator. Now I already have all of mine patched after modding them. Since you just flashed yours, this, instead of saying already patched, it will say driver found or detected, and instead of saying restore from backup, it will say would you like to patch these values, and you would click yes. And after clicking yes and it patches, you can close it out and reboot your PC. Once it reboots, you can check in Device Manager and see if all your display adapters are listed. And I have all of my RX series cards found. If you mess up on a flash, or if you forget to use the pixel clock patcher, the cards will sometimes not be detected, or they may show up but have a yellow warning kind of sign to them, showing that the driver is not correctly recognized. So always remember to run this patcher. But if you already have them patched, there's no reason you don't want to click restore from backup. And that's it. That is all you have to do to flash your card's BIOSes. I hope this helped. I hope you guys learned something. As I said before in the beginning, if you have questions, just comment them. I'll try to get back to every one of you as quick as I can. Thank you for having watched the video, and if you do like it, please like the video, subscribe. If you want to take a look at a project I am working with that is a great opportunity for a lot of people right here, Together is the name of it. And if you go to together.com, we are built on Ethereum. Now what we are a platform that allows you to create your own startup without third-party investors. We take out that necessity, so you can't have somebody Shark Tank you by offering to fund your startup but asking you for that 51% of share in your company. Now this is a lot more in depth than just scraping the surface of this. This is going to be honestly one of the most amazing projects that I've ever seen. It's a completely integrated software environment, and our alpha version of the software is actually going to be released so that people can try it before they decide to put any Ethereum towards this. I know people are probably so sick of hearing about ICOs and ITOs. I promise you I would not be helping or working with anything on blockchain that I didn't actually believe in. I've been doing this stuff since 2015, and there's only three things that I've actually put money into, and that's only because I believed in it. It's just something I would appreciate if you guys would check out. Good luck mining. Thanks for watching.